Okay, as part two of our series on developing a professional brand, in a previous video we talked about what are the elements of a professional brand, those being exposure and consistency. And we broke down exposure into personal interaction, third-party communications, secondary information, and to summarize, work activity and output. Okay, so with that being said, in this video we're going to talk more about how you actually develop your brand. Based upon these individual elements of exposure. Okay, consistency is self-explanatory. You want to be consistent in how often you are exposing this information about yourself to others, and that contributes towards how quickly and with what magnitude your brand is developed. Okay, so to start with, personal interaction. Well, in developing your brand, you should set standards for your personal interactions with others, particularly in the professional context. Okay. Now, we have lots of material on thebusinessprofessor.com about professional communications. It's those elements that are necessary. Things like tone, how you address others, empathy, whether you're willing to listen, genuineness, as well as things such as the topics that you speak about, how often you speak with people and to what degree or at what length you speak with people. And then there are all sorts of special scenarios with which in which you interact with others, in which you communicate with others verbally or physically through physical interaction with them. Okay, so I highly encourage you to look through our business communications section for that type of thing. But by and large, what you're focusing upon is the idea of expressing the person that you want to be to others and observing good etiquette in terms of how you interact with others. As part of this series, we identify specific business scenarios such as starting your day, life in the office, business meals, things like that. And those are the specific business scenarios that we're referencing in terms of personal interaction. Okay. The next is secondary information about yourself. And the primary way to control that is, well, one, you can do things where third parties write about you. Critiques or just simply covering business projects or deals that you're involved with. You can use press releases and that sort of thing to spread the word about yourself. That's a traditional method for businesses, but it can be used personally as well, contributing articles that you write that reference yourself or talk about what you're doing to blogs and things like that, going on podcasts, things like that. All of these are forms of secondary information. The simplest form of secondary information is social media. Okay, and we have a separate video specifically dedicated to your presence on social media. We talk about LinkedIn in a series. We talk about generally social media presence and things like that. So I highly encourage you again to look at that series on there about professionalism on social media profiles and accounts. Okay. And then next we have third-party communications. There's very little you can do to manage or affect third-party communications about you. It's the other elements, your personal interaction, the secondary information that's floating out there, and then your work standards that ultimately affect how third parties communicate with others about you. Okay, the consistency with which you put information about yourself out there through personal interaction or these other methods will certainly affect third-party communications, the frequency and things like that, and also the nature of the third-party communications, obviously. Okay, but it's just good to be aware of that contributes very heavily to your brand because you depend upon other people talking about you to others. Okay, and then there's work standards, and what we mean by that is individuals choose to undertake some task and avoid others, right? That type of thing. The type of work that you're willing to do. Now, at some point, you'll get yourself in trouble always saying yes to people because you stretch yourself too thin. It'll diminish the quality, things like that. Lots of people will tell you that at some point they became successful when they learned how to say no to others and focus on what was more important or more pressing at that time. Okay, so the actual tasks that you are willing or able to undertake, the quality of the output in any task you undertake, right? Your work product, right? If it's high quality work product, if it's churned out quickly when needed, if it is simply tailored to a special knowledge that others don't have, that type of thing. So all of that goes into your work quality. And then communications about your work quality, right? What is the purpose of the communication to others? Is it to beat out others? Well, that can have a negative effect on your brand, right? Others will resent you and see you as a gunner of sorts that try to win favor from a boss or something like that, right? So in a way, quality of work could be negative in that regard. But generally, the communication about your quality of work means simply that other people need to know about it. Also, that people need to be aware along the process. Clients, if you'll talk to them, are oftentimes frustrated when they're not kept in the loop about what's going on in a project or some transaction, for example. So regularly communicating what you're doing, how you're doing it, where you are in the stage of development, that type of thing, can go a long way towards building your personal brand, particularly when you're a professional service provider in that regard. So regularity of communication with others about your work effort and product. And then once again, measuring the effect, again, that your work product has on others. High impact activities generally have a greater effect or tend to be repeated by others more readily. Low impact activities, the quality may be exceptional, may not have a great high impact on others, and then it does less to establish your brand. So anyway, that being said, taking these elements together and working towards these is what you can do individually to build your personal/professional brand.